You'll never amount to anything, Sarah." Those were the last words my father screamed at me before I walked out of our family home in Denver, Colorado, at 22 years old with nothing but a duffel bag and $300 to my name. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 35 now, and what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. Because the same family that called me a worthless failure would soon be begging for my help. When their precious world came crashing down, and trust me, the way I handled it, well, let's just say karma has a sense of humor. Before we dive into this crazy story, hit that subscribe button if you love tales of justice served cold. And drop a comment below about what you would have done in my situation. Because honestly, I'm still not sure if what I did was right or wrong. Growing up in the Mitchell household, it's like living in a prison where success was the only currency that mattered. My parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, owned 3 successful car dealerships across Colorado. Money wasn't an issue. Appearances were everything. My older brother, Jake, he was the golden child. Star quarterback in high school, full ride to University of Colorado, graduated with honors in business administration. My younger sister, Emma, the princess who could do no wrong. Straight A's, homecoming queen, accepted to law school before. She even turned to 1 dot, and then there was me, Sarah the Scroop, Sarah the disappointment. Sarah, who barely graduated high school because I was too busy working part-time jobs to help pay for my own damn school supplies while my siblings got everything handed to them on silver platters. Why can't you be more like Jake? That was my mother's favorite line. Look at Emma. She's going places. What's wrong with you, Sarah? What was wrong with me? I'll tell you what was wrong. I had the audacity to want something different. While Jake was partying his way through college on Daddy's dime, I was trying to figure out how to pay for community college. While Emma was shopping for designer clothes, I was wearing hand-me-downs from Goodwill. The breaking point came during Christmas dinner 2011. I had just finished my EMT certification, something I paid for myself, working double shifts at a diner. I was so proud. Finally, I had something to show my family. "Mom, Dad, I have some news," I said, my hands shaking as I held my certification certificate. I passed my EMT exam, thinking about applying to the fire department. The silence at that table was deafening. Then my father started laughing. Not a happy laugh, a cruel mocking laugh that cut through me like a knife. "A firefighter?" he snorted. "Sarah, honey, that's not a real career. That's what people do when they can't make it in the real world." My mother chimed in, "Sweetheart, maybe you should consider something more ... stable, like working at one of your father's dealerships. We could find you a nice position in the office." Jake, my dear brother, decided to add his 2 cents. "Come on, sis, fighting fires, that's man's work. You can barely lift a grocery bag." Emma, ever the supportive sister, laughed so hard she snorted. Can you imagine Sarah trying to carry someone out of a burning building? She'd probably drop them. I sat there, my certificate crumpled in my sweaty palm, feeling about 2 inches tall. These people were supposed to be my family. They were supposed to support me, believe in me. Instead, they were tearing me apart like vultures. You know what? Stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I don't need your support. I don't need your money. And I sure as hell don't need your permission." My father's face turned red. "Don't you dare use that tone with me, young lady. As long as you live under my roof, I won't be living under your roof much longer." I cut him off. "I'm done. I'm done being your punching bag. I'm done being the family disappointment. And I'm done pretending you people actually care about me." That's when my father dropped the bomb that still haunts me. "Fine, leave. But don't come crawling back when you realize you're nothing without this family. You'll never amount to anything, Sarah. You hear me? Nothing." I walked out that night and never looked back. Well, not for 13 years anyway. The next few years were brutal, I won't lie. I crashed on friends' couches, worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, and put myself through Fire Academy. But you know what? I did it. Every single grueling day, every impossible physical test, every time someone told me I wasn't strong enough or tough enough, I thought about that Christmas dinner. I thought about my family's laughter echoing in my ears. Fire Academy nearly broke me. The physical requirements were insane. I had to carry 200-pound dummies up flights of stairs, drag heavy hoses across vast distances, and perform rescue operations in full gear that weighed more than some people. I was one of only 3 women in a class of 32. Mitchell, you sure you're in the right place? Instructor Davis would yell during our daily torture sessions. This isn't cheerleading camp. But I had something the other recruits didn't have. I had 13 years of built-up rage and determination coursing through my veins. Every time I wanted to quit, I heard my father's voice. "You'll never amount to anything. Watch me, old man. Watch me." I graduated 3rd in my class. 3rd out of 32. The day I got my badge, I cried like a baby in the parking lot. Not because I was sad, because I was finally somebody. I was firefighter Sarah Mitchell, and I had earned every damn bit of respect that came with that. The Denver Fire Department became my real family. Captain Rodriguez took me under his wing from day one. "Mitchell," he said, "you've got something special. You've got heart, you've got brains, and you've got more guts than half the men on this force." Over the next decade, I proved him right. I ran into burning buildings when others hesitated. I saved lives, comforted families, and slowly worked my way up the ranks. I became a lieutenant, then a captain, and finally, at 34, I was promoted to battalion chief, one of the youngest in department history. But my family. Radio silence. 13 years without a single phone call, text message, or Christmas card. As far as they were concerned, I didn't exist. Which brings us to October 15th, 2024, the day that changed everything. I was in my office reviewing incident reports when the alarm bells started blaring throughout the station. Structure fire, multiple buildings involved, Highland Ranch subdivision. All units respond immediately. Highland Ranch, my blood ran cold. That's where my family lived now, in one of those massive McMansions that screamed, "Look how successful we are." I hadn't kept tabs on them, but firefighters know their districts. And Highland Ranch was definitely in ours. As we raced toward the scene, smoke was visible from miles away. This wasn't just a house fire. This was a full-blown disaster. When we arrived, my worst fears were confirmed. The entire cul-de-sac was engulfed in flames. A gas main had exploded, setting off a chain reaction that turned the neighborhood into a war zone, and right in the middle of it all. 1247 Oakwood Drive. My childhood home's address was burned into my memory, but this wasn't that house. This was my family's new mansion, and it was surrounded by an inferno. "Chief Mitchell, what are your orders?" Lieutenant Johnson shouted over the roar of the flames. That's when I saw them, standing on the lawn across the street, clutching each other in terror. My parents, now in their 70s. Jake, who looked like he'd aged 20 years since I'd last seen him. Emma, no longer the confident princess, but a terrified woman watching her world burn. For a split second, I hesitated. 13 years of pain and rejection flashed through my mind. These people had destroyed my self-worth, made me feel worthless, kicked me out of their lives like I was garbage. But then I remembered why I became a firefighter. Not for recognition, not for revenge, to save lives. Even the lives of people who had hurt me beyond measure. Johnson, coordinate with Engine 23 on the east side. Martinez, get your team on search and rescue for the Henderson house. I saw movement in an upstairs window. Davis, crowd control. We need these people. Back at least 200 feet. What about the Mitchell house, Chief? Johnson asked, pointing at my family's mansion. I looked at the house, then at my family huddled across the street. My father was arguing with a police officer, probably demanding special treatment. My mother was crying hysterically. Jake was on his phone, probably trying to call in favors. Emma was just staring at the flames in shock. "I'll handle the Mitchell house personally," I said, grabbing my gear as I approached them. My mother saw me first. Even through my helmet and protective gear, she recognized something. Maybe it was my walk. Maybe it was my voice giving orders. Her face went pale. "Robert," she whispered, tugging on my father's sleeve. "Robert, look." My father turned, and I watched as recognition dawned on his face. His mouth fell open. Jake and Emma followed his gaze, and suddenly all 4 members of my family were staring at me like they'd seen a ghost. I walked right up to them, my boots crunching on the debris-covered pavement. The heat from the fires was intense, but not as intense as the moment when I pulled off my helmet and looked my father directly in the eyes. "Hello, Dad," I said calmly. He couldn't speak. None of them could. Here I was, the family failure, the daughter who would never amount to anything, standing before them in full fire chief regalia with the power to save or condemn their home. "Sarah," my mother whispered, "is that really you? Battalion Chief Sarah Mitchell, Denver Fire Department?" I corrected her. "And right now, I'm the person in charge of this entire operation." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The daughter they'd dismissed, the sister they'd mocked, the child they'd disowned. I was now the one with the authority to save everything they held dear. "Listen carefully," I continued, my voice steady and professional. "Your house is in immediate danger. The fire has spread to your neighbor's property, and we have approximately 15 minutes before the flames reach your structure. I need to know if anyone is inside." Jake found his voice first. "No, we evacuated when we saw the smoke." "But Sarah, all our stuff, our photos, our Chief Mitchell," I corrected again, "and your stuff is insured. Lives aren't." Father, ever the stubborn man, tried to assert some authority. "Now wait just a minute. I don't care who you think you are, but this is our home, and we have rights, sir." I cut him off, my voice now carrying the full weight of my authority. "I am the incident commander at this scene. What I say goes. If you interfere with fire department operations, I will have you arrested. Is that clear?" The man who had once made me feel worthless was now being put in his place by the daughter he'd thrown away. The satisfaction was incredible. But I had a job to do. I turned to Lieutenant Johnson. "Set up a defensive perimeter around the Mitchell property. We're going to make a stand there." "Are you sure, Chief?" "The Henderson house is still the Henderson house is a total loss," I said, looking directly at my family. "But sometimes you fight for what can still be saved." For the next 4 hours, I commanded a team of 40 firefighters in the most complex operation of my career. We managed to save not just my family's house, but 6 other homes in the neighborhood. It was a textbook operation that would later be used as a training example at the fire academy. But the real moment, the moment that made all those years of pain worth it, came when Fire Chief Morrison arrived on scene. "Outstanding work, Mitchell," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm putting you in for a commendation. Hell, after this, you should be running your own department." Then he turned to the crowd of evacuated residents and said something that made my father's face go completely white, "Folks, you're lucky to have Chief Mitchell in charge tonight. She's one of the finest firefighters this department has ever seen. You couldn't be in better hands." My family watched in stunned silence as other officials arrived and praised my work. The mayor showed up and shook my hand. Local news crews interviewed me about the operation. I was being treated like the hero I'd worked 13 years to become. As the fires were finally brought under control, my mother approached me hesitantly. "Sarah, I mean Chief Mitchell, we can't thank you enough." I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd aged so much in 13 years. The woman who had once made me feel invisible now looked small and fragile. "It's doing my job, ma'am," I replied professionally. "Could we could we talk? Maybe when you're off duty." That's when I delivered the line I'd been unconsciously preparing. "For 13 years, I'm sorry, but my schedule is pretty packed." You see, when you amount to something, people tend to need you. The impact of those words hit my father like a physical blow. I watched him realize that his own words from that Christmas dinner were being thrown back at him. The daughter he'd said would never amount to anything was now being praised by city officials and news crews. Jake stepped forward. "Sarah, please. We were wrong. We were so wrong about everything. Chief Mitchell, I corrected again. And yes, you were wrong. About a lot of things." Emma, tears streaming down her face, finally spoke. "We're sorry. We're so sorry for how we treated you." I stood there for a moment, looking at these four people who had shaped my life in such a painful way. Part of me wanted to walk away again, to let them live with the consequences of their actions. But I'd learned something in 13 years. Of firefighting, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is offer mercy when someone doesn't deserve it. "Look," I said, my voice softening slightly, "it's been a long night. Your house is safe. Your family is safe. That's what matters. But what about us?" My mother asked. "What about our family?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "You made it very clear 13 years ago that I wasn't part of this family. That hasn't changed just because I wear a badge now." The pain in their faces was evident, but I wasn't done. However, I continued. "I learned something in my line of work. We don't save people because they deserve it. We save them because it's the right thing to do. Tonight, I saved your house not because you're my family, but because it was my job." As I walked back toward my command vehicle, my father called out, "Sarah, please." I turned back one final time. "My team did good work tonight. Make sure you mention that in your insurance report." But here's where the story gets really interesting. And why I'm telling you to definitely subscribe, because you won't believe what happened next. 3 days later, I received a call at the station. It was Emma, Sarah, Chief Mitchell. "Oh God. You meet me for coffee, please. I have something I need to tell you." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a small diner downtown, neutral territory. Emma looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking as she stirred her coffee. Finally, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I need to tell you something that's been eating me alive for 13 years, she said. "Emma, if this is about no, please let me finish." She took a deep breath. "That Christmas dinner when you told us about becoming a firefighter? After you left, Dad got a phone call." I frowned. "What kind of phone call?" "From his lawyer, about Grandpa's will." My grandfather had died when I was in high school. I barely remembered him. Knew he'd been estranged from the family for years. Emma continued. "Turns out Grandpa had been following your progress. He knew about your EMT certification, your plans to join the fire department. Proud of you." My heart started racing. "Emma, what are you saying?" "He left you everything, Sarah. His entire estate. $2 million, his house in Aspen. Classic car collection. Everything the will specifically stated it was because you were the only grandchild who chose service over success. Who chose to help people instead of just helping yourself." Stared at her in shock. "What?" Dad was furious. He contested the will, tied it up in legal battles for years. He told us if we ever contacted you, if we ever told you about the inheritance, he'd cut us off completely. The room was spinning. "Are you telling me that for 13 years while I was struggling to make ends meet, working multiple jobs, sleeping on couches, there was money that belonged to me?" Kama nodded, tears flowing freely now. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. We were cowards. Kate, we chose Dad's money over doing what was right. But after seeing you the other night, watching you save our house, seeing who you became despite everything we put you through, I can't live with this secret anymore." I sat there in stunned silence. My own family had stolen from me. Not just money. They'd stolen my birthright, my grandfather's final gift, his acknowledgement that I was worthy of something. "There's more," Emma whispered. "The legal battles are over. Dad lost. The money has been sitting in an account gathering interest for 13 years. With compound interest, it's now worth almost $4 million. $4 million. While I was eating ramen noodles and sharing studio apartments, there was $4 million that belonged to me. I have the paperwork, Emma continued, sliding an envelope across the table. Dad made me promise I'd never give this to you, but I can't do it anymore. I can't be part of this lie. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Legal documents, bank statements, all showing that my grandfather had tried to give me a foundation to build my life on, and my family had stolen it from me. But you know what the craziest part is? As I sat there looking at those papers, I realized something profound. If I'd had that money 13 years ago, I probably never would have become a firefighter. I would have taken the easy path, maybe opened a business or bought a house and settled into a comfortable life. Instead, my family's cruelty had forced me to become someone I could be proud of. Their rejection had pushed me to find my true calling. Emma, I said finally, why are you telling me this now? Because seeing you in action the other night, you were incredible. You were commanding respect from everyone, saving people's lives, making split-second decisions that protected an entire neighborhood. You became everything we said you couldn't be, and you did it without any help from us. Actually, you did it despite us. She paused, wiping her eyes. I realized that you didn't need our approval 13 years ago, and you don't need it now. But you deserve to know the truth about Grandpa, about how he believed in you when we didn't. I folded the papers and put them back in the envelope. What about Dad? Does he know you're here? He'll disown me when he finds out. But honestly, after watching what you accomplished on your own, I'd rather be disowned by him than live with. This guilt, that conversation changed everything. Not because of the money, though I won't lie, $4 million solved a lot of problems. It changed everything because I finally understood that my grandfather had seen something in me that my parents never did. The next week, I did something that felt incredibly satisfying. I called my father, Sarah. He sounded surprised to hear. From me, actually, Dad, I'm calling about Grandpa's will. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I know about the money. I know about the inheritance. And I know about the legal battles you put up to keep it from me. Sarah, I can explain. No need to explain. I understand perfectly. You were so convinced I'd never amount to anything that you stole my inheritance to prove your point. I wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. But here's the thing, Dad. You actually did me a favor. What? If I'd had that money 13 years ago, I probably would have gotten comfortable. I might never have pushed myself to become who I am today. Your cruelty forced me to become stronger than I ever thought possible. I paused, letting that sink. And so, thank you. Thank you for making me prove that I could amount to something without your help. Thank you for pushing me to become someone I can be proud of. Sarah, please, can't we put this behind us? Can't we be a family again? And here's where I delivered the final blow. Dad, we were never a family. A family supports each other. A family believes in each other. What we had was a dictatorship, where love was conditional on meeting your standards. But the money, surely now you understand why I was concerned. The money is already donated. What? Every penny of Grandpa's inheritance. I donated it to a scholarship fund for young people who want to become first responders but can't afford the training. The Sarah Mitchell Emergency Services Scholarship Fund. The sound he made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. You see? Dad, I learned something you never understood. The measure of a person isn't how much money they have or how impressive their job title sounds. It's how they treat other people, especially when no one is watching. Sarah, you can't be serious. $4 million. $4 million that will help hundreds of young people follow their dreams of serving others. Young people like I was 13 years ago who get told they'll never amount to anything. I was quiet for a moment, then added, Grandpa would be proud. And with that, I hung up the phone. Now, I know what you're thinking. Was I crazy to give away $4 million? Maybe. But let me tell you what happened next. The scholarship fund made national news. The story of a fire chief who donated her entire inheritance to help other first responders caught the attention of media outlets. Across the country, I was invited to speak at conferences, appear on talk shows, and share my story with people who felt like they'd never amount to anything. The Denver Fire Department promoted me to Assistant Fire Chief, the youngest woman to ever hold that position in Colorado. I wrote a book about my experiences that became a bestseller. I started a nonprofit organization that helps young people from difficult family situations find their path in public service. But the most satisfying moment came 6 months later, when I received a letter from a young woman named Jessica who had received one of the scholarships. "Chief Mitchell," she wrote, "I wanted you to know that your scholarship saved my life. My family told me I was too weak to be a paramedic, that I should give up on my dreams and find a real job. But because of your generosity, I was able to complete my training. Last week, I saved a child's life during a car accident. I thought about you in that moment, about how you turned your family's rejection into fuel for helping others. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the people who believe in us least teach us to believe in ourselves the most." That letter is framed on my office wall, right next to my fire chief's commendation and a photo of me shaking hands with the governor. As for my family, my mother reached out a few months ago. She wanted to reconnect and put the past behind us. She mentioned that she'd seen me on the news and was so proud of everything I'd accomplished. I sent her a polite response. "Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad to hear you're doing well." However, I've built a life surrounded by people who believed in me from the beginning, who supported me when I was struggling, and who celebrate my successes without needing to benefit from them. I wish you the best. Jake tried a different approach. He sent a message through LinkedIn, mentioning that he was having some financial difficulties and wondered if I might be able to help him out. After all, we were family. I didn't respond to that one at all. Emma, though, Emma surprised me. She did get disowned by our father when he found out she'd told me about the inheritance. But instead of asking me for help or trying to manipulate the situation, she did something I never expected. She went back to school to become a social worker. She told me she wanted to help families heal from the kind of damage ours had inflicted. She didn't ask for my forgiveness or my blessing. She just quietly started doing the work to become a better person. Last month, she sent me a graduation announcement, not asking for anything, not expecting me to come to the ceremony, letting me know that she'd followed through on her commitment to change. I sent her a card. "Congratulations on your graduation. Helping families heal is important work. Good luck." It wasn't a reunion, and it might never be. But it was acknowledgement that people can change, can grow, can become better than they were. As for me, I'm 35 years old. I'm the assistant fire chief of one of the busiest fire departments in Colorado. Saved hundreds of lives. I've helped dozens of young people start careers in public service. And I wake up every morning proud of who I am and what I do. That Christmas dinner in 2011 was the worst night of my life. But it was also the beginning of my real life. The life where I stopped waiting for other people's approval and started creating my own definition of success. My father was right about one thing. I never amounted to anything according to his definition of success. I never made millions selling cars. I never married into wealth. I never lived in a mansion or drove luxury vehicles, but I amounted to something far more valuable. I became someone who runs toward danger when others run away. Became someone who saves lives for a living. I became someone who turns her pain into purpose and her rejection into resilience. The family that said I'd never amount to anything. They're still waiting for my next call, still hoping I'll come back and pretend the past didn't happen. But I've learned something they never understood. You can't build a relationship on need and desperation. Real relationships are built on respect, support, and genuine care. Things that have to exist before someone becomes successful, not after. I found my real family in the fire department. Captain Rodriguez, who saw potential in me when I saw only failure. Lieutenant Johnson, who has my back in every dangerous situation. The entire crew at Station 19, who celebrate my victories and support me through challenges. These are the people who knew me when I was just another rookie trying to prove herself. These are the people who believed in me before I had anything to offer them. These are the people who love me, not because of what I've accomplished, but because of who I am. And you know what the most beautiful part of this whole story is? Every time I put on my uniform, every time I respond to an emergency call, every time someone introduces me as Chief Mitchell, I remember that 22-year-old girl walked out of her family's house with nothing but a dream and determination. She didn't know she'd become a hero. She didn't know she'd save lives and change communities and inspire others. She just knew she wanted to prove that she could amount to something. Well, kiddo, we did it. We proved them all wrong, so if you're watching this video because you feel like your family doesn't believe in you, if you're tired of being told you'll never amount to anything, if you're ready to walk away from people who make you feel small, let me tell you something. You don't need their permission to become great. You don't need their approval to follow your dreams, okay? And you definitely don't need their definition of success to live a meaningful life. Sometimes the greatest gift toxic people can give you is their absence. Sometimes being rejected by the wrong people is the first step toward finding the right ones. Your worth isn't determined by how your family treats you. Your value isn't measured by their expectations or their disappointments. Your future isn't limited by their lack of vision. You have the power to walk away from situations that diminish you and toward opportunities that elevate you. You have the strength to turn their never into your watch me. And 13 years from now, when you're living your best life surrounded by people who appreciate you, when you're proud of who you've become and what you've accomplished, when you're making a difference in the world in your own unique way, you'll realize that their rejection was actually redirection. It redirected you away from settling for their limited view of your potential and toward discovering what you're truly capable of. The people who believe in you from the beginning deserve your loyalty. The people who only show up after you succeed deserve your boundaries. Choose wisely, choose yourself, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you won't amount to anything. Because I'm living proof that sometimes the biggest failures become the greatest successes, and the best revenge is a life well lived. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from family to find yourself? How did you handle people who didn't believe in your dreams? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me to keep sharing mine. Remember, you're not just watching a story about someone else's triumph. You're preparing for your own. The fire department taught me that heroes aren't born. They're forged in difficult circumstances by people who refuse to give up on themselves. Your circumstances are forging you right now. The question isn't whether you'll amount to something. The question is, what kind of something will you become? Make it count.